Hi, everyone. I'm Tung, managing partner at Notable Capital. I'm very excited to be here with Michelle Cordeiro Grant. She's the founder and CEO of GORGIE, the better for you energy drink. I've known Michelle for years. I think the first time we met together with Robin was 2016, 17 kind of time frame. And then we invested in your previous company, Lively, and you sold it successfully for over $100 million to Wacoal in 2019. So I'm excited to be here today to share that we're early investor in Michelle's second company, which we think will be much bigger, GORGIE, and I've been on her board for almost a year now. And recently doubled down to lead her Series A. So thank you for joining us.
Oh my
Michelle.
gosh. Thank you so much for having me here. I can't tell you what a breath of fresh air and just how warm and excited I am to be back. And honestly, being back in New York with the Notable team, everything just feels full circle. So thank you for having me.
You started here with your first startup in New York City. Can you kind of quickly give us a sort of summary of how did you decide to start your first business and what made you decide to sell that business for a very successful outcome?
Yeah, growing up, I'm the daughter of two Indian immigrant parents. And so the idea of entrepreneurship, it just wasn't a word in our household. It was doctor, lawyer, investment banker. And when I graduated from college, I tried those things. I went to law school for 2 weeks. I worked in finance, and the intangible world just didn't really excite me.
Right.
So I left and I went to New York City, one-way U-Haul right into the city. And as soon as I entered the world of brand and fashion, my whole heart tickled. Yeah.
Right.
Worked for big companies, Federated, VF Corporation, Victoria's Secret. These are all legacy brands with sincere market share, 40% market share with Victoria's Secret, $13 billion.
Right.
I didn't want to wear the brand anymore. In came social media, iPhones, the world was changing, and what people were posting weren't what these brands were sharing. And after I got married and had my daughter, I thought maybe there's a different way. Maybe I could build a company, and it being very utopian. What if I created a startup and I just asked people on social what they wanted and made that? But 80% of the time just did what Victoria's Secret did. Seems to work for them.
Right.
That was 2016. Never did I thought it would work.
But you had a different approach. You knew what was working to a certain degree, but wasn't optimized. What was that insight that you had that made you say that you wanted to do Lively first?
Yeah. When I was working at Victoria's Secret and these other legacy companies, the top 7 to 10 styles, call it, would drive the lion's share, 80% of the revenue. So think about the very sexy push-up. Everybody that bought a bra from Victoria's Secret knows that style. It was made in 1998. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, 2011, now 2016 at that time.
Right.
What they were leaning into and, for their shareholders, doing what was right, following the spreadsheets, was very consistent, but also not evolving and not changing with the consumer. Social media changed everything. The world was moving so fast, and there was access now with Shopify to start a company. And so the tools were just right in front of me, kind of saying, you can now actually go do this. 60% of the time you will fail in 2 to 3 years, 90% you will in 10 years. Why not play the odds in 40?
Right. But also, when you decided to do Lively, you also knew that you wanted to do something that's designed for women, by women.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing. I was recently married, a mother for the first time. And when I looked at my female leaders at these amazing corporations, they weren't able to spend time with their husbands and their children. And they also weren't making the decisions for the company. So I was like, well, you don't have either. Right. And I thought, what if I could have both? And when I looked at social media, I saw women posting themselves in so many beautiful different ways, but I never thought I could do that with what I saw in fashion. I'm like, well, what if we could create a world where women are so comfortable, so, inspired to live their lives in a way that is fulfilling and leading and own and create? That's what this brand is going to be. And so the tagline actually said, today bras and undies, tomorrow the world.
Right. Your business was doing well. You were scaling it. You had no shortage of capital who wanted to invest in you. Yet you decided to sell to Wacoal in 2019. What made you decide to make that decision? And feel free to be real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a really difficult decision.
I remember.
You
yes.
remember. And, at the time, my husband and I met post the financial crisis. He had worked for Bear Stearns,
Right.
on the New York Stock Exchange.
Right.
We lived in a one-room studio for 5 years. I'm talking, they said it was 400 square feet. It was 368. I measured. And so, for us, we had 2 kids, and someone just walked into our office one day. And I remember Yossi's like, Michelle, come to my office. And I was like, don't distract me. I'm building lively. He's like, trust me. I was like, okay. And a banker came in and said, someone's interested in buying your company. My first response was no. We are not for sale.
Right.
And, she was like, well, why don't you think about just meeting them? And I was like, you know what? I'll meet them and not discuss numbers. When I went to the meeting, it was the place in which I met our first investor, Yossi, a dear friend of ours,
Correct.
on Madison Avenue,
Right.
the same building. And I just kind of felt a warmth over my body where the universe was signaling something to me. And I went through the process. I didn't even know what I didn't know what an LOI was,
Right.
right? I mean, we didn't have a banker.
No.
And the decision was, number one, will the brand do better under this, this new big sister, call it, Wacoal? Yeah. Do they see the world the same way as me? And will it be a great return for our investors, our board, and our team? And is this right for my family? You're like navigating 5 questions
Right.
at the same time.
Right.
It came down to op cost for me. I was like, this was 2019. I was 39 years old.
Right.
I could do something even bigger if I really understand the risk reward. And if I have my family secure right now,
Yeah.
I'm going to go stronger than ever.
Right. So you did that, and then you spent some time thinking what your next move would be. How did you decide that would be F&B this time?
Honestly, I was scoping out 6 different ideas. I was, going into the NFT world for 1 second. I had a podcast.
It was hot.
Yeah, it was hot.
And,
yes. It was called Web3 with MCG, everyone.
Right.
I had a sock brand. I went driving around North Carolina. But CPG was calling me the most because everything was green and minimalist. And I had actually felt better than ever at the age of 40 because I was taking care of my body in different ways.
Right.
But from a brand perspective, none of that excited me. There was no color. There was no inspiration. There was no community that was pulling me in. Gorgie actually started as a cellular renewal brand. I thought I was going to change the world with NAD and resveratrol. But when I surveyed my community, everyone was so confused. They didn't even know what those things were. And I found myself, I'm like, okay, this isn't it. Then I was like, I'm going to put supplements and candy. Why don't we take our 6 supplements and make vanity candy, everyone? They're like, great, we want to drink it. It's like, oh, I'll make it a powder. They're like, we want it to be ready to drink. And so all of these things were pushing me. It was my community pushing me forward.
And this is when you're in Miami now.
Yeah. So then I moved, to Florida, and I see everyone drinking energy drinks.
Right.
Teachers, fitness influencers, everyone working around me. I'm like, wow, how big is this category? $20 billion in the United States? Hold on. Red Bull and Monster still have the sincere market share?
Right.
Deja vu.
Right.
Now here we are, bigger category, even more market share with the legacy brands. And there's not one product that I want to hold in my hand and post.
It's right. I mean, God forbid, some of the other competing products, whether Celsius or others.
Yeah.
None of them excited you.
Correct. And in fact, I moved to the same town as Celsius, read their earnings report, and that year they had done $250 million in 6 months. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go buy this product at Whole Foods. I went to Whole Foods. They couldn't sell it to me.
Right.
And when you're an entrepreneur, this like light bulb goes on over your head almost. Right. The light bulb went on over my head. I was like, wait, energy meets wellness. This is it. I was trying to bridge supplements into people's lives in a cool way. What if I combine it with energy?
Right.
We just got like the most powerful product in the world.
Yeah.
TikTok affirmed.
And you had never had any background in CPG or F&B. So how do you, whereas before with Lively, you had experience at several big firms.
Yeah.
How did you have the confidence and know how to navigate to get this started?
Oh my goodness. Networking and the power of the people you surround yourself with, that's why I'm so grateful and so gracious to be here with you today, Hans. The people around you are going to give you the tools you need if you just ask, right? And so my mentor, Harvey Sanders, who you remember from the board of Lively, he had created Nautica with Under Armour. He's like, Michelle, what's next? I'm like, I want to do CPG, Harv. He's like, okay, go meet Jason Cohen. He's the king of CPG, Skinny Pop, veggie straws, core water. I get a lunch with Jason. We talk about the most nonsense ideas for 2 hours. We're making CBD dog water. We're making popcorn that does something else for your body. But the point is, I developed a relationship with him in which he mentored me and helped me understand the process. What playing field? What game was I playing? Right now, I needed to create the best product possible. Who are those suppliers? How does the process work? And who is the customer? And he really helped me those through, 6 months, and then helped me that first year really understand what to do and how. And I just wasn't shy about asking for help. I think the greatest thing that I did as an entrepreneur in beverage is Gorgie came to fruition around August of 2020 as an idea and a sample by Labor Day. There was a trade show in Philadelphia called Expo East. And Jason and I were, Jason's like, are you ready for that? He's like, you don't have a can or anything. I'm like, I'm going to Expo East. I got a deck. I got a liquid in a jar. And I'm going to have college girls get together the day before. I'm going to ask them what they think, get all their content, and then take it. And I sat at the Ritz-Carlton next to Expo East, and I met so many amazing people. The C-suite of Body Armor, the best legal for food and beverage, the best suppliers. I had surrounded myself with the A+ of the industry, and I made friends with all of them.
How did you do it? How did you approach that day with just that?
It's the energy, no pun intended, that you bring to a conversation. Like I remember sitting in the lobby and I just went up to the bar. It was all men. Maybe there was like 2 women. I don't even know. It was mostly men. And I remember meeting Brian Camus, who was the president of Body Armor. And he's like, who are you? I was like, I'm going to be making the next best energy drink. He's like, you are? He's like, where are you from? I'm like, Boca. He's like, oh, do you know the tomatoes at Trattoria Romano? I was like, do I know those tomatoes? They're the best tomatoes. We became friends like that. You just put yourself out there just the way you would if you were going to college for the first day. Right. No fear, freshman year.
Do you think being in Florida helped this time?
I really think it helped. Honestly, I had a lot of fear moving to Florida. Yeah. My whole career, my life, my family, it was all built in New York City. Right. And so when I was leaving to Florida, I'm like, am I going to become, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose all my energy and my spark? It opened my mind to so much more of who America is. Right. It made me see more clearly what America actually needed. Right. I didn't even drink energy drinks.
In New York City. That's right. There's plenty of energy around you.
Yes, yeah. And you just understand their lifestyle, what they're thinking about, what they're going through, and how these products can really enhance their happiness.
As you get smarter and smarter with the space, what were some of the things you did and tried, to get to this, make you feel better drink?
Yeah. Number one, I thought that I knew what the consumer wanted with our drink, right? I thought they wanted 200 milligrams of caffeine. They wanted 150. I thought they wanted BCAA. They wanted L-theanine. So what's great about this category is you can ask people, and if anyone looks at a Gorgie can, you'll actually see our content creators and our community members on the can who told us what they wanted and the flavors they needed. So number one, that's an amazing thing. Number two, it's not as SKU intensive as apparel. Oh my gosh, we have 6 cans. We don't have 2,500 SKUs.
I remember.
So you can really zone in, and we sampled probably 150 times to get the right balance. Now, beverage is not just the beverage. You're a logistics company.
Yes.
You are literally delivering a heavy product, and now you have to understand distribution, and then you have to understand how to get in front of the buyer, but then you have to understand how to get it pulled off and on the shelf. Right. And that's the hardest part. So it's a lot of human capital is what I've learned. You're also looking at someone who didn't know who KeHE or UNFI, what they were and what they did. And so understanding the building blocks, but more importantly, always understanding that you can tweak the process. And there were some moments where I didn't lean into my superhuman power, which is to tweak, what the legacy brands are doing. And when I tried to go down the route of what they're doing, you get lost. Right. But when you actually blend what you know from D to C, what you know from fashion and lifestyle with how the legacy brands perform most profitably and smart, now we're seeing this explosion, which is retention-based brand building that ships to every single state in America every 2 weeks, to where we have national retailers in which, I love this stat, we've grown their energy category by 45%.
Wow.
And in energy specifically, if you think about the health and wellness channel across America, we've grown that category by 20%. So think about what that means. We're not only taking market share from legacy brands, we're bringing people into the category. That is the most beautiful thing you could do.
How did you get the initial the list of partners, like distributors or beverage makers, to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I sampled like crazy, and we did trade shows. You know, when we showed up at Expo West, our booth wasn't just a booth, it was a Gorgie energy bar with disco balls, with an ice luge, with a magazine. Now picture people being at a trade show and literally putting their cups and sometimes their lips to an ice luge to taste our drink. We created brand happiness and stickiness. They were just like, who is this girl and what is this? I'll tell you, I went to one buyer meeting, a national retailer, Sprouts. We're not taking any more beverages. Please, can I have a meeting? Yes, 30 minutes. Flew to Scottsdale, Arizona, walked into the boardroom. And we all know when you walk into a boardroom and it's cold and everyone's like, you have 30 minutes. You're like, okay, this is not going to go well. I immediately changed the conversation to look at how the community is responding to this. Look at what America is asking. It's not what I'm telling them. It's us showing them what America is saying. And then they taste the drink, all doors. So it starts with having a product you're so confident about that you don't have to explain how good it is. We're explaining how great the brand, the community, and the human impact is.
Yeah. You mentioned community. Both in your first startup, Lively, and in Gorgie, you lean into community first. And you sort of started with Lively and doubled down on it at Gorgie. Can you talk about what you did initially at Lively and how you tweaked the formula for Gorgie?
Yeah. 2016, it was all about Instagram, everyone. We're talking pre-stories here, early days. But the idea was, what if we created a community leveraging social media where it wasn't about the celebrities and it wasn't about the robust influencers? There's women all over America that want to be influencers. You just look at their content. And so we just reached out to those women that had gorgeous feeds and content, 500 to 5,000 followers. They became our community. That amplified to 165,000 organic, unpaid influencers in America and just took that brand viral. And it was just about, what do they care about? What do they want to see? What do they want to do? They became our marketing. They were even our fit guide.
Right.
It was wild. Gorgie, 2022, now it's TikTok.
Right.
And so we started building our community there on TikTok. Same principles. What do they want to see? What do they want to do? And even in the Gorgie app, a woman texted me the other night. She DM'd me. She goes, Michelle, I just have to tell you, I see these amazing events you do in LA and they're incredible. I'm a mother of 2. I just lost 36 pounds postpartum and I've made so many friends in the Club Gorgie app. I talk to them all day. They've changed my life. They make me so happy. And she's like, and the drink's amazing, but the community, everyone is so welcoming.
Yeah. And tell me more about Club Gorgie.
Yes.
And how do you want to build on that?
Oh my gosh, Club Gorgie is like my dream come true. You know, I'm a girl that was raised in New Smithville, Pennsylvania, one Indian family. And so for me to connect with like-minded people around me was really difficult. Now we've created this app called Club Gorgie. Women from all over America, from different cities, from college to, you know, early motherhood, are just going in there, obviously sharing how Gorgie's changing their lives, but also health and wellness tips, or just cheering each other on that job interview or your finals or recipes, or even the next idea of where we should have events.
Husbands.
Yeah, or complain about husbands, or why like there hasn't been a drink for girls. The next fashion brand they want to see. They're so comfortable to share and ask for the things that they want from one another and support each other, where they're just there to moderate. Right. You know, it's such a beautiful thing and it's a safe space. So it's not an algorithm pushing, you know, people they don't want to see or see. It's really who they choose to engage with.
Yeah. And you have done an amazing job doing collab with influencers.
Yes.
Just tell us a bit more of your strategy.
Yes. And
who have you worked with that has worked out really well for you?
Yeah, you know, Gorgie has been a brand that has been loved by celebrities in sports. We were taken to Wimbledon to be signed by tennis players and Super Bowl and so forth. But, you know, we've had this conversation, you and I, where it just didn't feel right to me to bring in an A-list celebrity unless they loved, like they were drinking it every day. And so we waited to see these influencers that were A-list and drinking it every day. And we found Jaclyn Hill.
Right.
one of the first beauty bloggers that most girls learn how to do their makeup from. We created Orange Twist for her.
Right.
And it just went viral. It grew so quickly that it's now an Air One. It's also national in Sprouts. It will be full end caps, everyone, I'm sure, by this summer. It's just grown so big because her audience trusts her.
Right.
And we trust her because she was a Gorgie girl to begin with. She was just tagging us for free. Like, didn't even ask for anything. We tried this again. Jordan Jones. Our team meets her at Air One. She's outside. A girl on her team's like, oh my God, that's Jordan Jones. And we're like, oh, we got to go off tour. And yesterday she hosted a Pilates event in LA in Santa Monica at the Proper. She posted a vlog. Her vlog, she literally teared up and she said, I'm just so proud of this collab that I'm doing. And I can't believe all these people are coming out for me. So girl has 10 million followers.
Right.
And so like, for me, it's the heart tugs that we get to see, you know, what our brand does with these collabs, because they just go viral.
And these influencers have millions and millions and millions of followers.
Yes.
Yet many of them highly respect what you have done. And more of them look up to you as a source of inspiration for them. What are some of the common questions that you meet when influencers ask you about your past successes? And what are some of the common answers that you have shared with them that resonate very well with them?
Yeah. I say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, number one, you have to see the world not as problems, but as puzzles. And I was joking actually with a friend today. She was on the Goop podcast actually, and we're both dyslexic. And we're like, dyslexia taught us early on how to not see failure as an end. It's like as a stepping stone. And that's what entrepreneurship is. Everything you're doing is like you're taking these hard steps, but you just get so good at it, you start skipping through the river. And really that's the same thing for these influencers. They work so hard at storytelling digitally, but then in real life, it feels like a lot. They're not used to three-dimensional interactions. And you just have to take those leaps, those things that you're uncomfortable with, get good at being uncomfortable. Because that's what an athlete does to get to the Olympics. That's what an entrepreneur does for $1 billion outcome. You get really good at being uncomfortable.
And a lot of influencers come into being one without having a lot of business backgrounds.
Yeah.
What is your advice for them to be not just in sort of one dimension and develop the other dimension?
Yeah. I mean, I really do think that they can become product-oriented people versus marketplace-driven. But to be a product-oriented, founder or business owner, you really do need a partner that understands that mechanism or a team that does. People often ask me why I'm a sole founder. It's just what I'm comfortable doing because I have to be comfortable with the risks I'm taking, but I surround myself with team members that also see the world as puzzles, not problems, and are willing to take risks with me.
Yeah. How can you share a bit about how you assemble your team, both in the case of Lively as well as Gorgie? What is your philosophy and what is the different skill set you want to add to the mix?
I would say I hire in seasons. When I'm building the brand, season 1 is really people that are jack of all trade and just have a fire burning from within that when you sit across a table for them, you don't want the meeting to end because they're so excited about the idea. I would say the first case in point is Ali Alquiza, who I hired for Lively. She didn't have any experience in lingerie or brand building or anything. She just kept coming back to me with decks and ideas. And I was like, I just met with you for swag. But I'm like, do you want to work here? She goes, I do want to work here. And then same thing with Maddie Lieber, who's our first full-time hire for Gorgie. I met her in the Web3 world.
Right.
And she was like, Michelle, can I do this with you? I'm like, you worked for Meta and Google. I was like, are you sure? She's like, she kept coming to event and with me in LA and then New York. And I'm like, do you want to work for me? And she goes, yes, I do. These people, they care so much. They're going to work so hard and so smart. They're going to figure it out with you. Now, when the brand is established, the business is, 7 figures, 8 figures. Now, season 2, you need to build a bench of a mix of experts with these puzzles, with these jacks of all trade. And that's where Gorgie is today. So we have this beautiful blend of people that came from Body Armor and Coke and Vital Proteins, et cetera, extremely successful CPG brands combined with the rigor and the flexibility of a Meta, a Google, et cetera. Yeah. So I think you have to blend worlds and blend thinking.
You have built a business, and this time we became an investor early on, personally first, and then investor from the fund transfer our personal investments through the fund at cost. So there's no conflict with the fund, and give the upside to our LPs. And then we doubled down to lead your Series A. In this process, and we're talking about only a 2-year period.
Right.
You have become the fastest growing brand in energy drink, bar none.
Right.
And every channel partner that we talk to, they can show us data where you're the fastest growing. If you had to, we talked a lot about how you got here, but you have to distill it just to 1 or 2 or 3 success factors that make it work. What is that combination of magic?
Yeah, I would say number 1, be a retention brand first. You can really build an acquisition brand with tools like, we know how to acquire customers. The most important question you need to ask yourself as a founder is, can you keep the customer? And that is something that we spent timeless effort on digitally. Our customer comes back every 7.9 days. They can't even have 12 cans last a week. That shows retention. And if I look at national retailers, our velocities have tripled in 1 year, not because we took on more doors, It's because they keep giving us more floor space because the customer keeps asking for more.
Yeah.
Now, when you see those numbers, you keep catapulting on top of that momentum and success. But founders that don't wait for that retention data, they're just going to burn and lose cash and fizzle. And I see that so often in beverage. People are buying sales because they're just buying doors. That's not going to work. You can't buy doors. You got to really build a business with the customer. Number 2 is you got to know your margin. Like, can you make money on this drink first and foremost? And what does that trajectory look like? You're not going to make money on the can day 1 when it's in beta, but you got to know what you need to get that margin to create a profitable business. And that's just table stakes of being an entrepreneur. And then I would say number 3 is, for me, it's always brand. Are you gaining permission to be in the consumer's life in more than one way? And so this energy drink needs to be a part of their morning wake-up routine, their pick-me-up schedule, their night out, and their pre-fitness routine. You have to be a part of their lifestyle, not just one element. And then you got the magic.
If I push a bit more on the first point, how do you become a retention savvy drink?
Yeah. So I focus group like crazy, as you know, Hans. Like when I was starting Gorgie, I had a cooler with me at all times where I had legacy cans of, we know what those brands were, and then the Gorgie samples. And I would blind taste test people left and right. My kids were so embarrassed. We're on the beaches of the Hamptons. I'm like posting up. We're, in restaurants, anytime someone walked into my house. And then I taught our team to do the same thing. The first time we unveiled Gorgie was at Art Basel. And we took over a bar at Surf Comer. We didn't even have permission for the bar. The bar was so popping that people loved the drink. The hotel asked us to stay for the whole weekend. Right. And so you have to put your brand out there and see if you're getting the stickiness. Then we were launched by Whole Foods. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything about beverage. I got the CEO of Whole Foods shaking my hand right now with a full wall of Gorgie on One Wall Street.
This better work.
This better sell. This better sell. And it was like, da-da. And the great thing about beverage is it builds like a brick house. You're just putting like one floor on at a time. And beverage is a combination of speed and patience because the customer has to build this as a habit into their lifestyle. Right. And you can't force that, but you can watch the data to tell you that it's happening. Yeah. So as founders, we are not patient. You're just like, are you back? Are you coming back?
Yeah. So final question. This has been, talking to you is always fun. And your sort of sense of optimism, but backed by data and strategy just makes a lot of sense. So what's next for Gorgie? You're in full year 2, 3 kind of time period now. Yeah. What's next, and what's your goal for the next couple of years?
Oh my gosh, this is just one of those years where I literally couldn't sleep as we were coming into New Year's Eve for 2025. I just know this is our monumental year, and we can already see it out the gate. We are obviously Club Gorgie is going to have a huge moment this year. We're launching with a national retailer. That is a huge opportunity for our brand to be in front of our consumer in a totally different way. Target. And, coming from fashion, we're surrounding ourselves with merch that's going to give this brand stickiness to our consumer in a totally different way. She'll be able to wear swimwear and Club Gorgie gear and so forth. So the answer is our pathway to becoming the next billion-dollar brand led by a female. I get goosebumps even saying it, but it's already happened in my brain. The world is just going to catch up.
And coming from humble backgrounds and first generation immigrant to be able to do this is not easy at all. And it is the beauty of this country, that the American dream.
It truly is. My parents came by the other day with flowers. They're in their late 70s. And they were like, we just wanted to come get a mango gorgie. I was like, I've arrived.
You asked me about being a doctor, being a lawyer, or being a banker. They want you one of your products.
Yes. Mission accomplished, everyone.
And that's a huge one. Coming from, I know exactly how you feel. When I first told my mother that I'm going to be a VC, she has no idea what that is.
What is that?
Why wouldn't you not work on a Wall Street firm anymore?
Yes. So my parents are, so proud. And I think the other side of it is my children are old enough to understand this one. They're not infants. They're 11 and 8. And they give Gorgie to their teachers. Right. So, we've really come full circle here. And I just have to say how thankful I am to Notable because, I'm a very emotional person about what I do because I love it so much. And the fact that I get to do it with you and this team, I never go out to the world with the brand. I always come back to, our family.
And I'm speaking on behalf of Robin, of Christina, for Jen, for Bailey, LG, Christine, Jeff, Glenn. I mean, everyone really, really, really enjoyed our interaction with you.
Yes.
I can't believe it's been almost 10 years.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. But this is why we do what we do. And we love to be able to have a chance to back you and be part of your journey and to help you realize your vision.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Our
truly.
pleasure, completely.
Thank you.
Thank you.